So this week, guys, we're doing another extremely easy weeknight recipe idea for you. We're gonna do Cubanelle stuffed peppers. Now I'm gonna do an Italian version of this. We're gonna stuff this with a little bit of sausage. We're gonna stuff it with some onions and some garlic. Now you could stuff this with maybe some ground beef and like some rice. Some people do that as well. You could also make a nice sauce to go along with it. I'm gonna do some things that are a little bit different. We're gonna make the sauce with some cherry tomatoes. It's gonna be kind of like a rustic type dish. This is excellent for a busy weeknight. You can always make these ahead of time and they're extremely delicious. I love these peppers. Without further ado, let's jump into cooking. Okay, so these are arguably my favorite stuffed peppers. My wife's always making fun of me saying these are the only stuffed peppers I like to eat. It's probably true. So these are some Cubanelle peppers. You get these at any grocery store. Now the one thing you want to look for when you're buying these peppers, you want to try to get the ones that are straight. Some of these peppers that are a little crooked like this, while they'll still work, you might crack them here, which will still be fine, but you know, you're gonna bake them in the oven anyways, but try to get some of the straighter peppers if you can. It's gonna make it you're gonna have a much easier time stuffing these peppers if they're already straight. So it's pretty simple. You're just gonna take your pepper, you're gonna cut the top off, and then you're just gonna take your fingers, you're gonna remove the seeds very gently. You might crack it a little bit, but that's okay. You're just gonna pull these seeds out. You're just trying to make sure you hollow this out so your filling will go in there nice and easy. So what I have here is some bulk sausage. We're gonna go ahead and add this to a large bowl. And this is actually some bulk Italian chicken sausage. You can use pork sausage, you know, a sweet Italian sausage, hot Italian sausage, whatever you like. If you're using the hot, just make sure that your sauce isn't too spicy with red chili flake. I like this chicken sausage. This is made at the grocery store. I think they make it in-house or they get it in from somewhere where it's homemade. It's a very, very good sausage. You really can't even tell the difference between it being chicken or pork. A few tablespoons of shallot that I just sauteed in some olive oil, about 3 cloves of minced garlic, also that I sauteed in some olive oil, a half a cup of Parmesan cheese, 1 cup of Italian breadcrumbs, a little bit of chopped parsley. If I had fresh basil, I would add some fresh basil as well. 1 whole egg, 1 big pinch of salt. Now watch how much salt you're putting in here because the sausage is salty, so you gotta keep that in mind. Nice amount of black pepper, and then we're just gonna go ahead and give this a mix until those breadcrumbs are evenly incorporated into the sausage. The breadcrumbs are gonna make this nice and super tender. It's gonna make it so it's not dry. Now some recipes will have 2 cups of breadcrumbs. I think that's a little bit too much. I like the texture of 1 cup of breadcrumbs. So now once your filling looks like this, let me go back and grab our peppers. So now we're gonna take some of our filling here and you're gonna stuff this right inside the pepper. And you can use a spoon if you want and kind of shove this in. I just like to use my finger. And we're gonna shove this all the way down to the bottom of the pepper first. Get it all the way down in there. Now this recipe will do around 4 to 5 peppers, depending how big they are. What's also nice about this is if you were doing this for a party, you can also stuff these peppers the day ahead, keep them in the fridge, and then you're just gonna fire them in the oven right before you serve them. So what you're gonna do, you're just gonna keep filling this up. Don't worry if this cracks like that, it'll be fine because you're just gonna serve it down like this. The key is you just wanna make sure you get the filling all the way to the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna fill the rest of our peppers and we're gonna set these aside and then we're gonna make our sauce. Now in a large pot, or in this case I'm gonna use a wok for this, we're gonna have this on medium heat. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil. And then once this oil is hot, we're gonna go ahead and add in our shallots. You could also use sweet onion if you'd like. A little bit of salt, black pepper right on the shallots. Now, since I'm not gonna add any sugar to this, I'm gonna let these caramelize slightly so they release some of their sweetness because we have to cut the acidity of the tomatoes. So now we're just gonna let these fry for about 2 minutes or so. So now once your shallots are just like this, a little bit toasted, a little bit translucent, a little bit caramelized, we're gonna add in the minced garlic, a little bit of chili flake. Then I'm gonna add a few teaspoons of dried basil. If I had fresh basil, I would add some fresh basil now, and then fresh basil at the end. But I don't have any fresh basil, and I'll tell you this, you wanna use what you have. Food's expensive right now, and you can't just be going and buying ingredients. You wanna use the stuff that you have at home. Dried basil is fine, but you gotta add it right here so it just opens it up a little bit. Also, anytime you're using a dry herb, you can use less than fresh, because that flavor is kind of concentrated. So after about 30 seconds, once you begin to smell that basil, you're smelling the garlic, I'm gonna add a little bit of wine. Any dry white wine will work. That was a Chardonnay. Now, anytime you add wine, you gotta let it reduce by half. So it's gonna take probably around 3 to 5 minutes or so. We're just looking for it to reduce slightly, and then I'm gonna add in the tomatoes. So it's been a few minutes. I'm gonna add in these little cherry tomatoes. Now, I like using these because they're a little bit sweeter. They got some nice pectin in there that's gonna thicken up this sauce. You always wanna make sure you salt your tomatoes. And since I have it, I'm gonna add a little bit of parsley now for some color. And we're gonna reduce the heat to a medium low, and we're gonna let these go until they release their juices into the sauce. Now, as you can see, we have a nice amount of sauce, and if you ever need to, you can always just press down gently on the tomatoes, and it'll help them along to release some of their juices. So now at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat, and these tomatoes are gonna actually finish cooking in the oven as well when we cook our peppers. Now we're gonna add some of these tomatoes right to the bottom of our granny casserole. At least that's what I like to call it, because everybody's grandmother, I think, has one of these casserole dishes, at least if you're Italian. We're gonna nestle in our peppers here, just however you can fit them in. Put the rest of these tomatoes right here on top. Get all that good garlic and onion there. All right, so now we're gonna cover this with a lid, and this is going into the oven, preheated at 350 for about an hour. It's gonna take an hour for these peppers to get soft and for the sausage filling to get up to at least 165 degrees in Fahrenheit internally, so you know that they're cooked all the way through. So I'm gonna place this in the oven, I'll be back in an hour. So these were in the oven for exactly 1 hour on 350. We're just gonna go ahead and serve this right on the plate. We're gonna add some tomatoes, some of that garlic and shallot right on top here. Hit it with a little bit of fresh parsley for some color. And there it is, that's our Cubanelle stuffed peppers. Let's go ahead and give them a try. We have a good meatball type texture with our filling, with the sausage and the breadcrumbs. You can definitely taste the garlic in there. You can taste a little bit of the fennel that's in the sausage. There's a little bit of heat because the sausage had a little bit of chili flake in it. So like I said, if you don't want it spicy, use the sweet Italian sausage. There's also an option where you can make this with a red sauce. I did do that for a short form piece of content, so there is a recipe with a red sauce version. I'm not disappointed with just the cherry tomatoes though. It's actually very, very good with just these cherry tomatoes. You get a little bit of sweetness from them. Our peppers are cooked perfectly. They're all the way cooked. They're not hard at all. Again, if you guys have fresh herbs, make sure you use the fresh basil, fresh parsley and stuff. I did use dry because I didn't have any fresh basil, but on the recipe it will say fresh basil. However, I can still taste the basil. You wanna make sure you just use what you have, but I always say to use fresh over the dried stuff. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a very, very simple recipe. It's extremely easy to do. You can always make these peppers ahead of time, like I said before, and just fire them the day you're gonna cook them. If you guys enjoyed this video or you learned something, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.